not what I expected to cast when I woke up this morning at all. As in the top left-hand corner of the map from the Shopify Rebellion will be our blue Terran player ByuN, taking on the red Zerg bottom right-hand side Serral. As we enter game 1 of this best of 3, this is the ASUS ROG 2021 Korean server qualifier. That's why Serral is playing, because anyone can play on the Korean server qualifier. You know, it's the same. There'll be a European server qualifier. It's just another qualifier, only that one's played on the European server. So each server just has its home region, which is obviously played in a time zone favorable to the players of that region. And of course, playing on their server means that they will have any ping advantages. So in this case, ByuN will have pretty much no ping versus Serral, who will have 300 ping or so. 200 to 300. Depends on his connection to Korea. Obviously, it does change a little bit from country to country and provider to provider and stuff. So yes, Serral, kind of a surprise to see him kind of playing in the Korean qualifier, but it kind of makes sense. And honestly, when you think about it, he might have done this more in the past had he ever needed to qualify for things, because Serral has not had to qualify for events for such a long time. I think he had to play in some TSL qualifiers last year, and that was probably the last time he really had to qualify for something, you know? Maybe next as well. I think he had to qualify into the next 2021 event. It's not often you see Serral in need of qualifying to a tournament, but what's happened this year is obviously first event of the year, first DreamHack of the year. He didn't finish top 4, so he finished top 6, which is already less points. But also, on top of that, it means you don't go to the season final, so you don't get any extra point boosting there either. And as the second season of the year finished up and he got second place, that obviously helps him a lot. But he's also not had the season finals to help him out, you know, further just yet, because that second season finals happens next week. And so he's actually just not in the top 4 of points. He's 4th place in Europe, but Neeb has more points than him in America. So he does not qualify for, or he does not qualify for an invite for the ASUS ROG, which is obviously kind of crazy. And that's why he does have to qualify. That's why he does have to qualify. So, yeah, that's kind of the story as to why Serral is here. We loaded into the bracket, we saw Serral be on second round, so we said, hell yeah, we'll follow ByuN, and we will cast whatever, to get into this series, as it was obviously the expectation. And I was kind of musing about this a little bit already, too, as I was like, hey, well, what the hell is Serral going to play? Is he going to play, like, some aggressive roach stuff? Because he's going to have more ping than usual. So, does he... You know, that would mean to me that you maybe don't stray into the world of Ling Bane, because that's where you're going to need really good micro. And micro is especially where the latency is going to hurt you the most. So maybe we see something more roach-focused from Serral. I was even happy to say maybe we see some more all-in focus games. And ByuN's just going to go for the 2-racks, the 2-1-1. Now, the 2-1-1 is super safe against a lot of these kind of early roach rushers. It's very good against if he goes for like a Nidus attack. You just have a lot of Marines and you don't waste time on Hellions. And it will create kind of micro situations from very early in the game. So if you don't have to defend an attack, you end up being the aggressor yourself. And then you'll be in the aggressor into a Zerg who has to kind of try and micro if all that ping, etc. And generally that should be, you know, some trades that you can maybe take the better edge of as well. Playing backs away, and we do have the Roach Roar in buildings, so I think we're starting to see at least some intentions of playing Roach-focused. It's a fairly early Roach Roar in 2. As we're going to go up to, what, 38 drones, and then it looks like... No, we're actually going to keep building drones, so it looks like just some defensive Roaches early. They will not be taken across the map. They will not be used aggressively. Some defensive Roaches to get us started off here. And yeah, just to mention as well, the Korean server qualifier is just the first qualifier that happens. The European server qualifier starts tomorrow. So it's very possible if Serral doesn't qualify here, he's probably going to make it through the European qualifier. There's also more slots available in the European qualifier. There's 2 slots available in Korea, 3 slots available in Europe, and 3 slots in the North American qualifier. Obviously, the North American one being the most accessible to players of all regions, because the Koreans can play there with relatively low ping, the Europeans can play there with relatively low ping as well. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind, that this isn't Serral's only chance to qualify too. It's also double elimination. One more final thing to mention, that if one of these players loses, they're not out of the qualifier, they will drop to the lower bracket to continue their run down there. Well, our Marines will join together and just going to be seeing the forces coming through. going to stem straight into this as an Overlord takes a little bit of damage. A couple of Lings will already go down. Obviously, this is where the Roaches can kind of stand up for themselves rather easily. Serral pulling back a little bit, not having any transfusers, and ByuN just lift up and leave. And obviously, that's the really great thing about ByuN. He really, a lot of the time, does know when it's time to just lift up and get out of there. And he will be just so annoying with this medevac still, as we finally go into extra engineering base back at home. So we're finally setting up for the future. But before that, there'll be a little bit more aggression as another medevac is making its way across. These two medevacs will dive into the main base. So in we go, and picking off a couple of Lings that were here already, we'll get this Overlord too, and is now going to make the jump onto this lair mineral line. The natural mineral line not mining yet either, because he's actually running away from this drop already. So Serral is definitely got the kind of the roach problems, you know, in this game right now, where obviously playing with roaches, you're just so much less mobile than usual. Makes life a little bit difficult. These queens get blocked in by the Marines. Welcome to your new jail cell. They were actually, the queens were doing a really good job targeting down the medevac. But then obviously the other medevac, I mean, both medevacs kept healing. He actually then tried to move command the queens out, and they were blocked in, and yeah, that became a bit awkward. Serral is losing 15 drones to this, as ByuN will just attack around all of the bases at the moment. Going to load up these few Marines into this medevac as well. And just going to be seeing our 1-1 upgrades on the way from ByuN. So Serral, I feel like you can already see a little bit of the ping coming into play, right? A little bit of... The thing is as well, right? Latency is a... Just going to be seeing a few Marines coming through, going to get a couple cream tears. The thing is with latency, it's not, it's, you know, obviously, you know, your clicks react a bit slow and stuff, but what that can really do to you as a player. If you guys have never played with, like, the ping in Starcraft 2, I would really recommend, I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I would say maybe you should try checking out, like, playing on the Korean server if you're in Europe or something, because when you do it, it's like, whoa, it throws everything off. And personally, if I try and do a build on the Korean server, I can't even do my build properly. I can't do my build properly at the best of times. But it's just like, if you're not used to the latency, it can throw you off of your jam, you know, it can kind of break your momentum a little bit, it can get into your head. And it's the sort of thing that actually can kind of gnaw away at other parts of your game that you wouldn't necessarily expect a slower connection to really kind of affect as well. And it's one of those things right there where I feel like maybe Serral gets these queens stuck and then he spends a moment too long trying to kind of move them. He's like, oh wait, did they just not move, or you know, are they stuck? And then, you know, all of a sudden you've moved command a bit longer because you're thinking about what it is. It's one of the kind of knock-on effects, right? Not saying necessarily that's exactly what happened. ByuN had some very good unit movement there as well. Not trying to discredit ByuN. I just think this is one of those matches where we're always going to have to keep the server in our minds when we're commentating through and watching how things play out. Gonna see our Marines and a couple more tanks getting set up. As you see our Roach Ravager force just gonna set up around this bottom side. Our Marines will come through and a couple of creep teamers will fall. As Marauder's coming up, tank is on the way, and even Infestor's on the way out here from Serral. Again, I definitely think Serral's composition is influenced by the latency, and I'm sorry to keep bringing it up. It's just, it is a big deal, right? That's gonna see these couple medevacs gonna escape away. So they're going to back around the bottom side. And yeah, this Roach Ravager force is going to get up to the high ground. Just looking to see what's going on. Just going to see the rest of the Roach Ravager down the bottom. These two medevacs will, I say, slip by, but there's an Overlord here, so they will be able to clean that up. And of course, then Serral at least knows what's coming his way. What's Serral's long-term game plan? He is going to go high, so it looks as though he will play just Roach Ravager with some tech behind it, with some Vipers, I'd assume. Oh, a Hydrogen, so yeah, obviously can play into Lurkers as well. So looking to get to that kind of point right now, as we just see the medevacs coming back down the bottom side. In the center, a few Marines are going to come through, and a couple of Roaches already being chased away. 2 Roaches go down immediately. As a little bit more creep spread will continue to get cleaned out. And that's going to be one thing ByuN can continue to do because he's just had such good control of this game. Continuously can just kind of drop the creep and get rid of that on repeat, pretty much. Roach Ravager here really went for a run forward, gets a fungal. Line the biles up off to the left-hand side, though, while obviously the medevacs are to the right, and maybe should. I feel like he fungled after he set up the biles, which was kind of interesting as well. Obviously, if you bile after you fungal, you can roughly know where those units are going to be stuck, then you can guarantee the hits. maybe was expecting ByuN to back away upwards, and so he was trying to hit that area with the biles and then force the units forward into the fungal and stuff. So a couple of ways you can kind of look at how that engagement went down. As Hive does finish, and the Lurker Den is now coming up. It's going to be ready in just a few moments' time. With the Lurker Den online, obviously that should go a long way to helping out, as obviously Lurkers, well, I mean, they still need their upgrades too, so not there yet, as ByuN is maxed out, so he should be looking to push. This will be his first pre-Lurker timing that he'll have. And maybe his only, as he has got a good siege tank count. It's one of the issues of playing Roach Ravager into Lurkers. You're already inviting your opponent to make siege tanks against the Roach Ravager, then they've already got the tanks against the Lurkers, makes your life way more difficult to do anything with those Lurkers because you can't attack into somebody who has that amount of siege tanks. Marines are dropping into the main base, as we do see the push continuing forward on the right side as well. Marines in the main not going to be responded to well enough. Roaches just about to get 2-2 upgrades, will be a little beefier here in a moment or two. Serral has Lurkers to try and buy himself some time. They don't have that seismic spines yet, which is a little bit sad. Obviously, we're used to seeing those Lurkers with that additional range. They just aren't there yet. We do have an infested. It has got a fungal growth, but it looks like Serral will lose this right side base. He drops a good fungal. Some biles which will land just on 1 or 2 Marines. The rest able to squeeze out of there. That is going to be Serral. Really shutting down. Or really being shut down on the right side. I mean, he's going to push through now. The Vipers will drop a blinding cloud, and that will give him a bit of chance to kind of get forward here. I feel like he had another Viper that didn't get to cast properly, as he gets a reasonable cleanup, but he's just obviously not quite got enough. And as ByuN comes through the center of the map, he will come through and overrun Serral and take game number 1. Game number 2. In the top right-hand side of the map, our blue Terran player is going to be ByuN from the Shopify Rebellion. Up against the red Zerg in the bottom left-hand corner. It is Serral playing out here on the Korean server. Yeah, Serral was kind of dead off the 2-1-1, guys. Like, when the initial medevac showed up, or the extra medevac showed up, the first 2 you did okay against. There was the extra medevac showed up and obviously kind of made life a bit miserable. Just going to be seeing Overlord moving around to that through that bottom side, Hatchery going down the natural. All of this getting up and running, as we do see a Rax just coming through on that main base. So all of that's coming up. So yeah, it's one of those situations where the initial medevac showed up. He took a lot of damage. That's when he lost those 4 queens. And that's when I went on a bit of a spiel. I was like, well, you know, the server latency can maybe kind of throw everything off a little bit, guys. And I do actually genuinely think it has an effect there. I think it has a negative impact on how Serral is deciding to do things and stuff. So, yeah, I'm not... like I say, I don't think that's super crazy to say either. I think Serral would have had some smoother movement. And in general, he's playing a Roach style because he's on the Korean server. So if nothing else, I'm pretty sure he's playing these Roaches because of the fact that he's on the Korean server. He doesn't necessarily want to play Ling Bane. And of course, if that's the case, then, you know, you're already putting yourself into a very difficult position to defend against a very heavy medevac play like that, because Roaches are not good at defending against drops going everywhere. So ByuN really kind of picked the right build, I think, against what Serral was trying to do. And it worked, like I say, very well, obviously, for ByuN. As we get this off and away. Overlord heading along the right is going to go to the upper side. Yeah, it's double elimination, guys, so the loser of this does drop down to the lower bracket, of course. We'll see which section of the bracket we'll end up following. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I only really looked at the ByuN Serral part of it, so I'm kind of thinking that once this ends, we'll just see where the rest of the bracket is at, and we'll just kind of decide from there where we go. I think it's cool to maybe follow ByuN if he wins, because obviously he is, you know, the reigning champion of ASUS ROG, so it'd be really cool to see if, you know, ByuN would come through and be able to maybe qualify again into the event which he won last year. A lot of people asked why isn't ByuN invited back as the reigning champion, but I think in Starcraft 2 it's very fair to say a lot changes in a year. I think, I always thought that, you know, inviting someone back 1 year later to a tournament because there's so many tournaments through the year, right? It doesn't really make sense when we have a more up-to-date ranking with the ESL points and stuff. It doesn't make sense to invite someone based on their achievement last year. It's cool for the storyline, of course, but if ByuN, if ByuN is good enough to be there, he will qualify to be there, and he will do so on his own accord, right? So it's all about kind of, making the best tournament possible. Because he could invite someone who just quit 6 months ago because they won last year, and it's like, well, they don't even know how to, they don't even know what the meta is, you know what I mean? That's obviously extremely unlikely, and that's not the case here at all, but like I say, that's kind of the idea behind it, to explain a little bit. Serral's building roaches again. This time, ByuN's going to open Banshees. I think, again, very good idea, because he's probably expecting a little bit of Serral roach action once more, because he's playing with ping. So he's just playing a style that would keep him safe against the roaches, can actually deny a lot of roach attacks, can be aggressive against roaches nicely, all that kind of stuff. Gonna grab this Overlord here as Marines and a Widow Mine will load back up, and we're gonna go out to the right-hand side as we're actually gonna find another Overlord, but this one Serral will run forward to defend. See, we will be able to push that back, and ByuN will be turned away for the moment. Back wanting to dive the main, decides not to commit, sees a few units there already, and gets distracted from the idea. So just on his way up to the lair. Again, this was not roaches to be aggressive, this was just roaches to set himself up to defend against whatever pressure came first, and it is Marine Mine. Again, he never really built Hellions here, ByuN, right? And again, just really feels like he's playing correctly towards the right idea. You saw Serral. That split was a moment too late. He was moving the targeted drone away at the end to try and split away from the other two. Just wasn't quite in time, and again, maybe... Again, I hate to question mark it so much, but maybe a bit of the ping. Maybe he just didn't react in time, right? I mean, it's hard to say, just... And maybe I should just shut up about it, because personally, I kind of hate it, I suppose, when people go on and on about it. I just feel like people are going to start going in the chat like, Serral's washed up. Because that's people's favorite thing to say lately, so... Anyways, actually, you know what? I promise I'll stop talking about it. Zip, my mouth is shut. Do have Marines and a couple of tanks still making their way down the bottom side, so it's going to be a push here from ByuN. Stim ain't done for a while, though, so no stim on this or anything. Serral is making a bit more Roach Ravager. Roach speed coming through. Now, he built Evo Chambers, right? Or am I crazy? No, I think I was watching the engineering base, and for some reason I seem to think that was... Evo Chambers, so I think Serral's just going to go for what will be kind of a fun, kind of like 6-minute-ish Roach Ravager Ling attack. He starts Evo Chambers now, maybe I think because he saw the Banshees. And knowing about the Banshees, he says, well, I can't really attack aggressively into you without a backup plan because the Banshees alone are likely going to be able to stop my attack. So he was just building a lot of units off of, 60-ish drones. Not quite full saturation. There was no Evo Chambers down, but he changes his mind away from that now. He'll set up a counterattack while keeping some units here to defend. So keeping a few units back there to defend. We do see some drones going down. The Banshees get active. The Ling counterattack hits the wall. There's a Banshee. 7 drones, but 1 Banshee now dead. Obviously, 7 drones is still good, though. And this Banshee will still create a little bit of a threat down in this bottom side. I mean, maybe he wants to leave a Queen there to block it right away. As now we start the missile upgrades from Serral. They are going to be later than the upgrades of ByuN, so a way in which ByuN can take a lead once more. He's already up just 11 workers, 12 workers in the game. Of course, he hasn't been able to land his 3rd base until, well, just about now. So he will only just now start to get those mining properly. That's misplaced. There's no way that's in the right position. That needs to go to the right a little bit. You can see Serral's is obviously like the same amount away from gases. I know it's not the same base, but this is not in the right place at all. There's no way. I refuse to believe it. Let's see if he's going to take like an actual eternity to get back to the mineral line. Yep, ByuN agrees. Yeah, just a little misplace on the CC. Not the end of the world, though. I mean, a little bit of lost mining time. Very, very minor. Especially because he fixed it fairly quickly once he realizes what's going on. Roach Ravager still sits on the left as our tanks will settle down. We're just going to be seeing our Zerglings of Serral. Still moving around the bottom right. Going to come through onto the tower where a Hellion has to back it up. We'll see the rest of our Marines, a tank set up over there. A little bit of roach ravage coming through. We'll see, we do have the second factory and a fourth base, so ByuN just kind of knows where he wants to take this as Serral goes into Baneling speed. So we didn't really see Banelings last time. So that part of this is already going to be different. As he gets the infestation pit up, I'd imagine we are going to be aiming towards the hive tech. And with the hive tech, the Vipers. To get some blind clouds on all of those siege tanks would be my immediate guess or so. Vehicle weapon upgrade coming on the army. We are going to go through the bottom sides. These Marines are going to drop off into the back of this third base. I'm just going to see a couple of drones going down. And the roaches are going to move on through. An extractor gets picked off. The roaches are going to keep on chasing. That's a spore crawler that gets shot down as well. And now the medevic's going to lift off and take a trip over toward the natural, which is denied by a spore crawler. These queens still going to put in some work as the roaches will continue through the Marine count. And it looks as though this is a defended drop. At the same time, we've got the push on the left-hand side. Serral about to have that Baneling speed. Might be able to come in from the top side here, like wrap around. One thing to keep in mind is Serral really hasn't got like that crazy good economy we usually talk about. It's 77 drones and that's nice, but it's not like 85, 90 workers, which you so often do see in this TVZ matchup. So a little bit low on workers than you might expect. He's going to go for this. He didn't end up flanking this at all. It's just all from one direction. Needs to get some biles off on some of these tanks, take them down as soon as possible. And Serral pushes through, and he will push ByuN all the way back. And a few final units for free toward the end. There's still a drop in the bottom right, and he's still losing a couple drones here and there. And obviously having his troop spread pushed back as well, as ByuN will keep up the pressure in pretty much as many places as possible. Marines still coming through with a little bit more creep being denied. Now these roaches showing up, and they're able to pick up a little bit more damage as well. Those Marines lifting up once again as our melee upgrade, our adrenal glands, our +2 cow base all comes up as a couple of Vipers. Continuing on in. Serral going to get a bit aggressive maybe? Is he going to end up actually fighting a base? Or what's the plan for him here as he makes his way up the left-hand side? So far, not really much. The Banshee, I believe, has come back into play on the bottom side of the map as well. Just got cleaned out, so Banshee cleaned out. Just waited to see if anything happened here. It didn't really. So the Banshee goes down, and, well, yeah. Going to be seeing the Vipers are just putting their work into the hatchery, get some energy up and running. Going to need these Vipers to create some decent trades, honestly, along the way. If you're going to have a chance at winning this game as Serral. He's about to have adrenal glands, and he's going to go into the Ultra's Cavern for the next step of this as well, just to tech up that little bit further. Couple of vials already coming through, quite a lot of lings going down as well. Army does move out down the right-hand side as the Marine Marauder drops into the main base and isn't already going to get the Spore. We'll get the Ultra Cavern too, so that's a cancel, and that's going to be a delay on what Serral wanted to go into next. The Viper just flies into the Marines. Obviously, that don't usually happen. But Serral's also losing fights elsewhere on the map. He's losing fights kind of out on this right-hand side. I just want to go back and show you guys because a lot happened very quickly there as we're watching the Viper die. But yeah, I mean, there's this, and then he still has these units fighting over here, for example. This army's showing up. These roaches have to back away. This army's actually going to come in here and kill a bunch of drones, kill this hatchery, so Serral drops down in base. And this is just before he GG's. He's just losing a lot of roaches for free. He obviously just lost that Viper. Yeah, it was not looking pretty for Serral, and while you might say a little preemptive GG, because the supplies are still even-ish, it's not really close.